husband, wife, whoever it is, whatever it is. Okay? There's times when we are faced with different challenges in our life. And all of us, to quote the late Joel Goldsmith in his book, Rising Consciousness, or Raising Consciousness, I think it is, when he talked about the fact that we all are at different states and stages of consciousness. However, okay, the issue is that our outer experience, okay, is only determined by our inner unfolding. So as we unfold from within, then this outer then is going to conform to who you are on the inside. Okay? To who you, to use this term, to who you be. Not physically. Your beingness, the truth of your being. Because anything that is opposite of the divine will of God does not align with the truth of who you are. The issue is us taking that and making that, as Goldsmith again talks about, as the activity of our awareness, as this truth that goes on within us. Okay? So, when we talk about the consciousness of faith, we're dealing with a state of mind that causes us to go from one level to another level. I don't know if you ever read in the scriptures, I believe it's St. John chapter 14, when Jesus talked about in my Father's house that there are many mansions. We're not talking about the buildings outside, of course. We're dealing with different levels or dimensions of divine order. So when we talk about the consciousness of faith, we're actually growing out of one level to go into another level, only to grow out of that one again. That's why I've always said that potential is never fulfilled. Why? Because potential is always expanding. Okay? We have heard that term, about fulfilling your potential and all of that. Okay, cool. I got that. I understand that. However, the actual issue is that once you get to one level, okay, you actually prepare yourself to expand into a new one. If you don't grow or expand into a new one, then you become stagnant. Everybody understand what I mean? Okay. All right. You become stagnant. And when you become stagnant, then you become stuck. Okay? And it's in that stuckness then that we find ourselves, if you will, confused or lost, not knowing what to do, not knowing what direction to take. Okay? Some have said that faith is blind, or to not go by blind faith. Well, I'm under the persuasion of Marianne Williamson in her latest book, Tears of Triumph, when she makes a statement saying, quote, that faith is not blind, but visionary. Okay? Faith is not blind. Faith is visionary. Why? Because anytime you operate from a position of faith, then you have direction. Okay? You have a sense of direction in terms of where you're going. Okay? The how you get there is not the issue. The fact is that you have a place to go. You have a direction to go to. Okay? A lot of times, though, we judge things by appearances. And if we're not mindful of those appearances, as I said a moment ago, will keep us stuck. Dr. Paul Stokes, in his book, The Adversity Advantage, makes this statement saying, quote, that if you kill my agility, then you suffocate my alchemy. In other words, if you keep me from moving, you stop my creativeness. Okay? If you keep me from moving, then I'm no longer creative, because my creativity is in my action, is in my movement. You see it? Okay? So when we operate from a consciousness of faith, we're operating again, as I said, from a state of mind. That state of mind or that position of thought, okay, that mindset that we have, tells us or is the indication of where we're going. We have to be renewed. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 23. We have to be renewed in the spirit of our mind. Okay? Because again, where you place your mind determines the direction in which you move. So again, that consciousness, that mindset, that way of thinking, okay, the content of your consciousness should be all things are possible to him that believes. It doesn't matter what it is, all things are possible. If it wasn't, if it wasn't possible, we might not be carrying this little tablet thing here. Okay? We might not be carrying these little cell phones. I remember I was a manager over there at Office Depot years ago, and I remember when they first came out with video phones, they were really landlines, okay? And the person, if you wanted to see the person on the phone, they had to have one too. Okay? And that was back in the mid-'80s, late 80s. Okay? All right? How far have we come from that? Why? Because somebody saw something different. Somebody believed in something better. Okay? The highest form, the highest essence of who you are is the self-identity that you carry. The identity that you align with. What do you align with? Do you align with faith or do you align with fear? Do you align with hatred? Do you align with love? Do you align with construction or do you align with destruction? Do you align with divineness or do you align with the ego? The ego is nothing more but the miscreation of the personality that we created. Do we align with that? Because whatever we align with, that's what you carry into your situations. That's what you carry into the challenges of life. That which you are aligned with. So if you align with victimism, then the mindset or the consciousness then is one of always being a victim. Take this. Thank you. If you align with can't do it, then that's how we live. Because why? We live or walk by faith, okay, not by sight. Well, we're supposed to live not by sight, but a lot of us do live by sight. Okay? So the issue now is how do we transfer, how do we transition from this material consciousness or this material plane, from living by the physical senses only, and using the physical senses as the barometer or the measure of how things is. How do we do that and transition from that to believing in something that goes beyond our physical senses? That's something that you really just can't physically touch, something that you really can't just scientifically measure. Because again, our scientific measurement of divinity, they call it the 0-point field. Ben Taggart and all that. Okay, just because it can be measured scientifically does not necessarily mean, okay, that our faith is really concrete in it. Because again, if you can name it, that's not it. Michael Beckwith. If you can name it, then that's not it. See, there's an invisible essence. Ernest Holmes talks about the fact that there's a perfect pattern of perfection at the center of our being. There is something virgin on the inside of you that is untouched by any circumstance ever in life. It is a virgin space on the inside of you. It is something that has never been touched by the outside, and that is your divinity, that is your divineness, that is your spirit, that is the truth of who you are. Okay? The circumstances is not the measurement of divineness. The circumstances is not the measurement of God. Even Even if we're enjoying here our condo and we're sitting up on the second floor and we got the Cal King bed, and all that, and we're doing good. Here, 10 cars in the garage. Here, 500 million in the bank. All that's good. All right, cool. But that's not the measuring stick for God. Because if we do, we leave ourselves only to the material plane. Okay? The measurement of God goes beyond our physical senses. It goes beyond all of this finite. Okay? The well of who you are, the depth of who you are. Deep calling unto deep. God calling unto the depth of who you are to help move you and navigate you, cause you to circumvent all the situations of life. Because why? These situations of life are not there, as old school would say, that the trials come to make you strong. No, the trials come to take you out. It's the attitude of mind you have through the trials, through the temptations, through all the tests. Okay? All right. So, again, that consciousness, that mindset, that consciousness of faith. First of all, understanding that, number one, faith is a what? State of mind. Okay? Now, how do we develop this state of mind? How do we cause ourselves to come into alignment? One of the best ways of doing that is what I call consciousness conditioning. In other words, you are conditioning your consciousness through the process of self-direction. Say it again. You are conditioning your own consciousness through the process of self-direction. You are literally reprogramming your own mindset. And you are voluntarily adding, if you will, new content. Okay, all right. You are taking what the scripture talks about in Romans 4:17. You are calling things that be not as though they were. I don't have this at this particular point. I don't have this at this particular point. Okay, I'm trying to do this, and this is not happening. Okay, good. You're going to begin conditioning your consciousness by calling or summoning, affirming, confessing those things that are not yet in the physical reality as though they were already in the physical reality. The Gospel of Thomas talks about the fact about being surrounded by the answer. We must surround ourselves internally with the answer already. Believe you receive. Believe you already possess it. Believe you already have it. And so we want to condition our consciousness. Why? Because, again, Proverbs 18 and 20 or 21, that death and life is in the authority of your tongue. Amen. Mm-hmm. Death and life is in the authority of the tongue. And whatever one you love, that's what you're going to be eating from. Okay, all right? Okay. Death and life is right here. And see, with this right here, we can purposely take control of how we're conditioned. Because why? If we don't, then we leave ourselves open to all the throes in this world, and the throes of this world will condition our mind for us. All right. Amen. So we have to purposely take control of conditioning or programming or reprogramming our own thought life. Okay. And so we begin to speak that, again, as I said, which is not in physical existence, okay, as though it already is in existence. So when I say that I am rich in mind and manifestation, the rich substance and abundance of this earth and universe instantly responds to my prosperous thinking. I am rich in mind and in manifestation. The rich substance and abundance of this earth and universe instantly responds to my prosperous thinking. I am divinely created. I have the divine capacity to attract and manifest everything I need, desire into my life.
Amen.
I am divinely created. I have the divine capacity. I have been given the divine gift, the divine allness. Everything that God is, I am.
Yes.
Because the nature of the Creator is in the nature of the creation.
Yes.
So everything that God is, I am. Everything I am, God is. So therefore, when Jesus said that I and the Father are one, we're not talking about the flesh. We're talking about what Goldsmith says, that mystical I that's at the center of our being. Okay? Dr. David Hawkins in his book, The I, makes this statement, wonderful book, as a matter of fact. He makes this statement saying, quote, that the I of the self is the eye of God witnessing the creation is not. Say it again. The eye of the self, the higher self in you, is simply the eye of God witnessing the creation as it is now. See? The I and the Father, the I of the self, who you are, the essence of who you are, and the essence of the Father, the originating seed of all that exists, Father. Not this human figure as we already know. But I and the Father are one, and because the I in me and the essence of who God is the one and the same, then all that the Father has is mine. All that the Father is, I am.
Amen.
The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. So therefore, if the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, what part of this earth does not belong to you?
Amen.
Why? Because you and the Father, the essence of who you are, is one. You have dominion. Exercise that dominion. You have the leadership. Exercise it. Why? Because that's who you are. It's us. I don't know about you, but I've been there. It's us that allow the circumstances of life to beat up on us. Okay? And we've all been there. We are the ones that allow the situations that is the illusion of who we are. We are the ones that allow it. But now, again, that shift your energy. Change the direction. Change direction of thought. Change direction of mind. Change direction of what you say. Okay? Again, Dr. Kenneth Copeland, okay, in his book, The Blessing of the Lord, makes this statement saying, quote, that every word of disharmony violates the way you were made. Say that again.
Yes, please.
Every word of disharmony violates the way you were made.
All right.
Amen.
Say it again. Every word of disharmony violates the way we are made. Why? Because we're made in love and grace. We're made out of the favor of God. We are created, okay, out of the very beauty of God, the very soundness of God. Not what mankind has labeled and said that we are because of their theological misinterpretation.
Right. Amen.
Oh yeah, let's go there for about 2 more minutes. Okay, all righty then. I think we struck a chord. Okay, all right. My background is fundamental Christianity. My wife and I pastored in Los Angeles for about 9 years. Faith for Kingdom Living Ministries was the name of the church. I was tunnel vision in my view, had absolutely no idea how life worked. And I was fasting. Until a pastor friend of mine, ours, told me that perception is 100% reality. When she told me that, I said, what in the world is that? Because I had absolutely no clue what she just said. She explained it. Long story short, I went on this rampage of re-educating myself. And my wife would tell you, she went to bed many a nights by herself because I was in my library, consuming.
Amen.
Because I found out in all of my Christian understanding, and this is not to put down Christianity, I have in all of my Christian upbringing and all those that have come before me and all those that I trusted and learned from, that pure Christianity was not what it was told. It was not as it had been told. And so I went on this, as I said, this this rampage of just soaking up everything. I was reading everything about everybody I could get my hands on. So now, 2,300 books later, all this other stuff. The result of all that, the Apostle Paul, 1 Corinthians chapter 13 says that we know in part. That was freedom for me, along with what Wayne Dyer taught me, and that was to have a mind that's open to everything but attached to nothing. And so because we know in part, then I learned then that regardless of the label of the spirituality by which a person identified or connected themselves to, none of us have the totality of all wisdom and knowledge of the divine. It doesn't make everybody else wrong. It just means that all the wars that have been fought in the name of God have been for nothing. All the men and women that have died, it was for nothing. It was because of a manipulating cause. Those that want to manipulate the masses, going all the way back to Constantine and before. The Bishop of Hippo, Augustine, Origen, John Knox, and all this other stuff going on. You see? So again, I had to reprogram my thinking. Because I told my wife just a few weeks ago that I'm no longer a Christian. I'm a man with spirit and as a teacher teaching spiritual principles. It's not about my label. Watch this. Stay with me now. Okay? Y'all ready? Stay with me now. Okay? At one time I was New Thought. I'm no longer New Thought. Why? Because I'm a spiritual man. It's not about my identity to New Thought, as good as it is. It is about my alignment to spirit.
All right.
Not Baptist, not Presbyterian, not Seventh-day Adventist, not Islamic. No. These things are simply labels to try to help people identify with something that they're trying to gain an affinity with. But like Abraham Lincoln said, that the dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate for the stormy present. We have to no longer allow what we've been taught to just be the cap. In other words, what we've been taught in terms of what we identify with, that's not the spirituality. It is my alignment to the divine. That's what I call spiritual healing. It's my alignment. So as I align to God, and I'm going to wrap this up, as I align to God, as I align to the divineness of who I am, as I align to this divinity, okay, I'm really aligning to the truth of who I am. The late Dr. Howard Thurman in his book, Meditations of the Heart, said years ago, saying, quote, that I seek to know God that I may understand myself. I seek to know God, to understand this divine essence that I may understand myself. The divineness of who I am. So now, from that point now, we develop this consciousness of faith because I know what I'm aligned with. I know what I identify with because my identity is my self-image, and my self-image is part of my self-concept. The three levels of self-concept, real quick, are self-idea, self-image, and self-esteem. Self-idea, how and what you think about yourself. Self-image, how you see yourself. And self-esteem, the value that you place on yourself. So if your self-image is aligned with a divinity, okay, all right? The Gospel of Thomas again makes this statement saying, quote, that he who sees divinity becomes what he sees.
All right. All right. I like that.
Oh.
Amen.
Say that one more time. He who sees divinity becomes what he sees. The Gospel of Thomas. So when you see divineness, you are going to reflect that in the experiences of your life. So to operate from this consciousness of faith, because I'm aligned with my divinity, because I'm aligned with this presence that I call God. Again, Dr. David Hawkins, again in his book, The Eye of the Eye, makes this statement saying, quote, that the vision of the presence is the inner knowing of everything. The vision of the presence is the inner knowing of everything. In other words, once we have the recognition, the realization of our divineness, of our divinity, we have access then to the inner knowing of all that is. Wow. Now we can operate now from a consciousness of faith. Because why? I can say what God has said about myself. I can believe about myself what God believes about me. And I can take that into every experience of my life. I can take that. Because why? It's me. It's who I am. I'm not weak and broke down. I'm not a pilgrim treading through the heat and through the cold. I'm not broke. I'm not without understanding. I'm not without wisdom. I am not without grace. I'm not without favor. Why? Because all that God is favor. So all the favor of God is in me. I'm favored.
All right.
All the peace that God is, I'm peace. Because why? The divineness. I am a unique emanation of God. I am a unique emanation of this divine peace that God is. I am a unique emanation of the abundance that God is. I'm a unique emanation. I'm a radiation. See? And that's the part of the law of attraction that they miss, because they talk about the law of attraction, but they don't speak about the law of radiation. Because the law of radiation specifically states that the energy that you emit
All right, there it
is
is.
the attracting factor. So when you emit the energy of peace, then like Iyanla Van Zandt in her book, we can have peace from broken pieces. So when you emit that energy of peace, you're going to have experiences of peace. Why? Because you are radiating peace. When you radiate love, you're going to have experiences of love. Why? Because that's the energy that you're radiating. The law of radiation. When you emit being a joyful person, this young lady here sitting here smiling and being joyful. When you emit that, then she is actually inviting joyful experiences into her life. And even if she comes up against something, comes up into her nature, something comes up within her experience that is not of a joyful measure, she already has the equipment within her to meet it. Why? Because she has God.
All right.
So as we end this, We are where we are. We do what we do. We live how we live. Because of the consciousness of our mind. And in particular, the content of our consciousness. So let us leave today understanding that if I'm going to operate with a consciousness of faith, if I'm going to live this, not just take a pill in the morning and not take the pill the next day. A lifestyle. Something that you live. Something that we breathe. Something that we take in. Something that we emit. Something that we are constantly releasing. Because what? Why? Whatever you bind on earth or restrict is bound in the universal order of things. Whatever you loose or release in this earth realm, okay, is going to be mirrored back to you. The universal order is going to mirror that back to you. Goldsmith talks about casting your bread upon the water, and after many days it comes back to you, the same thing. So wherever we are, whoever we are, in our physical experience, if it's not what you want, if it's not what you know in the depth of your being, if it's not what you know, not what you've been told, not what another